Let me tell you something brutal. Some people are counting on you to keep betraying yourself. They are betting that you won't say no, because when you finally do, you'll stop being useful to their comfort and start becoming dangerous to their control. I used to say yes like my life depended on it, like it was the key to being loved, to being needed, to being enough. I didn't just say yes to favors. I said yes to picking up other people's responsibilities, to holding their pain when I hadn't even learned how to hold my own. I said yes to staying in rooms that drained me, to conversations that bruised me, to expectations that suffocated me. I thought being available made me valuable. I thought being agreeable made me lovable. And deep down, I was terrified that my worth was so fragile, so conditional, that one no would shatter it all. Every time I said yes, I abandoned a tiny piece of myself. I betrayed myself in whispers, one small compromise at a time. I didn't even notice it was happening because people would smile, they would praise me, they would say things like, "You're such a good friend," or "You're always there for everyone." And it fed something in me. It fed the part of me that was starving for approval. But here's what no one tells you. When your value is tied to your usefulness, you become terrified of being empty. You become terrified of resting, because resting means you're no longer producing, no longer fixing, no longer proving. And if you're not proving, who are you? I was addicted to yes. It gave me the temporary high of acceptance, but it left me with the hangover of exhaustion, resentment, and quiet rage. Rage that I never allowed myself to feel. Because nice people don't get angry, right? Kind people don't set limits. I now understand that chronic people-pleasing isn't love, it's fear in a beautiful disguise. It's not generosity, it's survival. In psychology, they call it fawning, the pattern where you appease others to stay emotionally safe. You shapeshift, you silence yourself, you become so easy to be with, but you become impossible to be for yourself. And the cruelest part, the more you abandon yourself, the more you teach people that you are available for your own erasure. I lived there for a long time. I kept saying yes with a smile, while my spirit whispered, "Please, say no." But no one teaches us that loving yourself sometimes sounds like disappointing other people. No one tells us that real kindness has boundaries. No one tells us that peace doesn't come from being liked by everyone. It comes from liking who you are when you're finally honest. Every time you say yes when you really mean no, you are voting against yourself. And eventually your soul starts noticing. It's a slow, quiet grief, the kind that creeps in when you've spent years performing someone else's version of your life. Saying yes might keep the peace out there, but it wages war in here. And you can't keep doing that. You weren't made to live that kind of war. The first time I said no to someone I deeply cared about, I felt like I had just committed a crime. My body trembled, my heart pounded, and my stomach twisted into knots. I wasn't even saying no to something catastrophic. It was something simple, something I just didn't have the capacity for. But to me, it felt like I was pulling a rug out from under their feet. I had spent years being the reliable one, the steady one, the one who would drop everything if you called, the one who would rearrange her life just to avoid disappointing you. I thought that was what love was supposed to look like. That love meant sacrificing myself so others could be comfortable. So when I finally said, "No, I can't do that this time," it didn't feel like I was setting a boundary. It felt like I was betraying them. I sat in the silence that followed, bracing for rejection, for anger, for the moment they would pull their love away like a punishment. That moment didn't come right away, but something else did. Shame. Shame whispered, "You're selfish. You're letting them down. You're not who they thought you were." And that's the part we don't talk about enough. The brutal loneliness that can come when you first start honoring yourself. When you've spent most of your life saying yes, your no will echo like an earthquake. It will disrupt relationships built on your endless availability. It will rattle the expectations people have grown comfortable placing on your shoulders. And sometimes it will reveal something that hurts. They didn't love you, they loved your compliance. They didn't choose you, they chose what you could give. Psychologists say this is where the rupture happens. The rupture is the moment you risk your connection with someone in order to stay connected to yourself. It's the point where you stop performing for their approval and start standing in your truth, shaky legs and all. And here's what's wild. When you're someone who's always said yes, your first no feels like a betrayal. But it isn't. It's actually your first honest act of loyalty to yourself. What no one tells you is that healthy relationships can withstand your no. The people who genuinely love you might be surprised, they might even be uncomfortable, but they will adjust. They will lean in. They will respect the boundary even if it stings. It's the people who only loved you for your usefulness who will make you feel like your no is a rejection, like you've suddenly changed the rules of the relationship. But the truth is, the rules were broken the moment you were required to disappear to keep someone else happy. There's a painful but necessary reckoning in this. Some people were never really choosing you. They were choosing their version of you, the one who didn't say no. And the part that makes your heart ache, you let them. You trained them to believe you would always make space, always stretch thinner, always put them first. But you're allowed to change the contract. You're allowed to rewrite the agreement. You're allowed to stop betraying yourself just to hold on to people who were never holding on to you. It's not a betrayal to say no. It's not cruel to have limits. It's not unloving to protect your peace. The people who truly see you, the ones who really love you, will never require you to disappear so they can feel secure. Let this land deeply. The right people won't leave when you start telling the truth. They will meet you there, and if they don't, they were already gone. You'd think that after finally mustering the courage to say no, you'd feel empowered, liberated even. But here's what hit me like a tidal wave the first time I did it. I didn't feel strong. I didn't feel free. I felt guilty. Crushingly, overwhelmingly guilty. It's the kind of guilt that doesn't whisper, it screams. It follows you into the next room, it sits beside you when you try to relax, and it crawls into bed with you at night. I found myself replaying the moment on a loop. Was I too cold? Did I say it the wrong way? What if they think I don't love them? What if they don't ask me again? I would go back and forth, mentally rehearsing what I could. I felt distressed. I wanted to put pillows around my boundary so it wouldn't bruise anyone on contact. But here's the brutal thing about guilt. It doesn't always show up because you've done something wrong. Sometimes it shows up because you've finally done something right. And no one talks about this. No one prepares you for the grief that comes with growth. I was so conditioned to believe that my worth was connected to how much I could give, how often I could bend, how quickly I could say yes. So when I started saying no, I wasn't just disappointing other people, I was disappointing the version of myself I had worked so hard to build. the accommodating version, the agreeable version, the always accessible version. And you know what's even harder? Sometimes people around you will weaponize that guilt. They'll say things like, "You've changed," or "I guess you don't care anymore." And when you're tender and new at this, you will want to rush in, to fix, to over-explain, to take it back just to make that ache go away. But this is where the real work begins. This is where you realize that guilt is not always a reliable compass. Psychologists explain that when you step out of an old identity, when you stop playing a role you've performed your whole life, your brain triggers guilt as if you've crossed some moral line. But you haven't. You've just crossed the line between self-abandonment and self-respect. And guilt will follow you for a while like a shadow. It will make you question yourself. It will make you feel like you're being selfish. But here's the truth I wish someone had told me earlier. Guilt is not always a sign that you've done something wrong. Sometimes it's a sign that you've stopped doing what was wrong for you. It's a withdrawal symptom. You've been addicted to saying yes, addicted to being the hero, addicted to being the one who saves the day, and now you're detoxing from that role. That guilt, that's your old identity clinging to you. It's your people pleaser begging for one more chance. It's your perfectionism panicking because you dared to disappoint someone, and you have to sit in it. You have to breathe through it. You have to remind yourself over and over, I am allowed to protect my energy. I am allowed to say no, even if it makes other people uncomfortable. And here's what I've learned. If you can survive the guilt, you will meet freedom. Because guilt is temporary, but self-betrayal, that lingers. So if you're carrying guilt right now, let me tell you something. You don't need to soften your no to make it easier for people to digest. You don't need to shrink your boundary so they'll still like you. You don't need to apologize for not being endlessly available. Guilt will visit, but it doesn't get to live here. Your boundary is allowed to stand. You are allowed to stand. And the people who truly see you, the ones who genuinely love you, there was a moment, a specific moment, when I said no to someone I really cared about, and their face immediately twisted in disappointment. I saw it happen. Their shoulders dropped, their tone changed, and I could feel their hurt like a wave crashing into me. They didn't say it out loud, but I could hear it anyway. You've rejected me. That crushed me. It cut so deep because that's the last thing I ever wanted to do. I wasn't rejecting them. I was just protecting the little bit of myself I had left. I was saying no because I was exhausted, because I had nothing left to give, because I needed to matter to myself. But in that moment, they couldn't separate the boundary from the relationship. They made my limit about them. And I think that's where a lot of us get trapped. When we start practicing the art of saying no, we aren't just managing our own discomfort, we're holding the weight of how other people interpret it. We start believing that someone's disappointment is proof we've done something wrong. We confuse their reaction with our responsibility. And here's where it gets painfully complicated. We've been taught that if someone feels rejected by us, we must have failed to be kind enough, giving enough, available enough. We were not taught that sometimes people will feel rejected simply because we stopped abandoning ourselves for them. Sometimes our no will echo like rejection in their hearts. But here's the truth, most of us are too afraid to say out loud. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every relationship has the right to our unlimited energy. There are moments when you say no, not because you're closing the door on someone, but because you are finally closing the door on exhaustion, on resentment, on the quiet, corrosive depletion of your spirit. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you are learning the sacred difference between being generous and being self-sacrificial. Neuroscience teaches us that when we override our boundaries repeatedly, we activate a stress response that doesn't shut off. We live in a state of chronic hypervigilance, waiting for the next request, the next ask, the next obligation. Our bodies break down, our mental health deteriorates, our joy evaporates. You can't keep doing that. You can't keep bleeding out just to keep someone else whole. When you say no, you're not building a wall. You're building a door with a lock that you hold the key to. You choose when to open it. You choose when to rest. You choose who gets access to the most sacred parts of you. And here's what I've come to believe. If someone cannot handle your no, they were never really safe with your yes. Some people only know how to love you when you are endlessly accommodating. Some people only feel close to you when you're constantly sacrificing. But real love, steady love, can survive your boundaries. Real love can hold space for your humanness, your limits, your needs. I remember sitting with the ache of that moment, realizing I wasn't rejecting them. I was simply choosing not to reject myself anymore. And if that felt like rejection to them, that was their work to do. Your no is not a cruelty. It's not a weapon. It's not a rejection of the person. It is a protection of your peace, of your body, of your life. And if someone can't see the difference, you're still allowed to say it. You're still allowed to choose you. Let this be a quiet, soul-deep reminder. Not everything asked of you is meant for you to carry. And not every no is shutting someone out. Sometimes it's just keeping yourself in. There's something sacred about a slow, steady no. It's not the panicked, rushed, blurted out kind of no that comes when you're backed into a corner. It's not the defensive, sharp-edged no that bursts out because you've been pushed too far. It's the kind of no that comes with pause, with breath, with calm. It's the kind that says, I've thought about this, I've sat with it, I've listened to myself, and I trust my answer. It took me years to realize I didn't need to rush to say no or overcompensate to make it easier for the other person to swallow. I didn't need to lace it with a dozen excuses. I didn't need to scramble for the right words to soften the blow. I didn't need to wrap my boundaries in sugar just to be palatable. But I used to. I used to believe that if I said no, I had to earn the right to say it. I had to write a full essay, offer alternatives, make it sound like I had no other choice but to decline. I used to think I owed people explanations so thorough they couldn't possibly be upset with me. But that wasn't love. That wasn't courage. That was fear. Fear of being disliked, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being left. And here's what's wild. We don't even notice how we abandon ourselves in the micro moments. The way we immediately try to fill the silence after we say no, the way we nervously laugh and over-apologize, the way we instantly shrink and try to soften our tone to make our boundaries more comfortable for others. What I've learned is that we don't need to rush our boundaries. We don't need to dress them up in guilt and panic. We can offer them slowly. We can offer them with tenderness. We can offer them with stillness. A slow, steady no carries power. It carries self-trust. It says, I no longer need to prove I'm worthy of this space I'm taking up. Psychology teaches us that people who set boundaries calmly, without excessive explanation or emotional scrambling, are perceived as more emotionally mature and confident. When you over-explain, you're not just giving reasons. You're subconsciously asking for approval. You're asking to be told it's okay to have needs. But here's the truth you've been craving. You don't need permission to be whole. You don't need permission to say this isn't for me. You don't need permission to choose peace over obligation. There's something about a slow no that recalibrates your nervous system. It reminds your body, I am safe to set limits. It reminds your heart, I am still good even when I say no. It reminds your mind, I don't have to be in a hurry to protect myself. And maybe most importantly, it reminds you that love doesn't require urgency. Love doesn't demand panic. Love can stand still. I remember the first time I said no without rushing, without folding under the weight of someone else's expectation, without chasing their understanding. I simply said no, this doesn't work for me, and let it be. I didn't run. I didn't beg to be seen as good. I didn't drown in guilt. And you know what? The world didn't fall apart. The relationship didn't end. The person didn't hate me. But even if they had, my integrity would have stayed intact. Because that slow no was the most honest thing I had said in years. It was me finally standing next to myself. So let me offer this to you as gently as I can. You don't need to explain your boundary to be allowed to have it. You don't need to rush your no to make it more acceptable. Your slow, steady no is sacred. It's a quiet revolution. It's a return to yourself. It is where your freedom begins. Some people will only love you as long as you keep betraying yourself for them. Your no will feel like a rebellion. It will feel like you're choosing yourself for the first time. Because you are. And that's where your freedom lives.